Welcome back to another Deeper Dig conversation series. This is episode 40 with designer and multifaceted creative Galen Cason. Galen, how are you doing today?
It's a pleasure to be here. Shout out to arabbitshole for the great opportunity. I would never think I'd do something like this because I just never thought it was worth enough. But arabbitshole showed me that I am worthy, so that's all that matters.
Yes, sir. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Galen Cason. I am from San Francisco, California. I was born in San Francisco. Something that who I am or who I try to be is someone that can provide a deeper behavioral analysis through physical product like clothing or like accessories or through art.
How do we know each other? Can you tell sort of the audience like how we know each other and the backstory behind that too?
Yeah, so how we know each other. I've probably been around Diego for the last 15 years. Grew up playing AAU basketball in Walnut Creek, California, by my favorite program, ASA Prime. And Diego played for the competitive program, MVP Flight. Back in the day, we used to go head to head. We were never like actually playing against each other when we were growing up, but we're always in the same tournaments, around the same areas. And then one summer, Martinez, California, we're in this old gym next to some train tracks, and see Diego and bros grabbing the ball, slashing, pull up mid ranges, everything. We started playing for the same basketball team, and that's how we rekindled or found each other.
That was in JUCO. That was we sort of like met each other again, and then it wasn't until like after that year. I think you hooped we finished that year, and then you hooped another year, and then it wasn't until like sort of after that, it was kind of like another game recognizes game moment. And we were like, yo, or whatever. And then we did that first shoot and kind of the ball started rolling from there. But that was a fun time.
When was that first shoot?
That first shoot was the one in Berkeley that we did with...
no, it wasn't.
With Lonnie, I believe.
Was it? Oh.
I think so. Yeah.
We did two in Berkeley. That's what I was thinking about. We did two shoots in Berkeley, actually. Yeah, so it was Berkeley that we did, Sunset that we did, and then Berkeley again. Yeah.
When you are creating things, what is sort of your inspiration? And how do you get inspiration for your clothing through other mediums aside from looking at other clothing?
Yeah. My biggest inspiration, number one, is movement. I don't really like how people create clothing sometimes, or not even people, how we try to put a narrative on clothing, put it in a glass case, make models stand still to make it look like clothing shouldn't be moved in or lived in. So my biggest inspiration is movement. I love to capture the essence of which clothing lives, the place that it is, where it's going to be, where it already has been, and then just expanding on that. And I think the number one best way to describe it is endless travel, like endless adventure. We're always going somewhere, whether we believe it or not, whether we think that we are, whether we're going to work, whether we're going to school, whether you're going back home, you're always doing something and traversing throughout life and traversing throughout time. So it's one endless adventure for me, and it's one endless adventure for everyone else that's living. And I want to embody that within physical product like clothing, just to be a reminder.
Can you tell us a little bit about kind of your experience here in the Bay Area, and then also can you tell us about your stint that you had for a while on the East Coast, living out there, kind of packing up everything you got and bringing it out there and kind of like showing your colors over there on that side, kind of bringing your West Coast vibe? Like, what did you learn? What were the differences? And how did that go?
Yeah, so one thing about the Bay Area that I love, it has a little bit of everything, which not a lot of places can say that they have. So I feel like the biggest thing that I've learned from the Bay Area is nothing's ever going to last forever, and nothing's going to stay the same. Everything can change. It can change so fast. The weather in the Bay Area changed so fast. The people in the Bay Area changed so fast. The environment in the Bay Area changed so fast. It's like every day that I drive on the freeway, I see a new apartment complex going up. So that's, for me, was the biggest thing that I learned, that things are going to change. And it can be good change, it can be bad change, but it's going to change regardless. So just adapting to that and building around that and just keep going is the number one thing. So making the transition to the East Coast for a while, it was kind of similar mindset that things will change. Right now I changed. I went to the East Coast, and now I have to figure out how to do things over here how I did in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and approaching the situation in a way that's, you can't always force change. You can't always try to you can't always try to put it in a bubble or put it in a box and then look at it later. It's there now. You deal with it now, and then you keep going, because next day it's going to change again.
And then can you talk a little bit about what you learned on the East Coast, or how that was different?
Yeah, on the East Coast, it's similar to the Bay Area. It's just more compact and more fast paced. It's just more people, basically. It's more people. So the biggest thing was, okay, rather than me in the Bay Area going to work, working on the brand, and then coming back, working on the brand, it was more about, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to have 3 other things to do, and then I'll work on the brand. And it was kind of like a little bit more about like delegating time, delegating workload. One of the things that I learned at work, and I was so fortunate to learn on the East Coast, was my job put me in a position where they really needed me to take a little bit more charge of things, and that helped with me delegating workload. And that didn't really, in a sense, help for it helped for the company that I worked for a lot, but it helped me even more on how to manage time. So that was the biggest thing, is managing time and managing energy, because we only ever have so much energy to give. We only have so much time to give. So just managing it at the areas and places that you believe that it works best.
Yeah, and last September of 2025, we were out there in New York, and you threw a pop-up, your first sort of front-facing pop-up, especially one on the East Coast. And there were a couple of things that happened that we were surprised about. We had a line, waiting for us before we opened, and people were really interested in the flavor that was kind of brought from you and your pop-up. So can you talk about your experience?
I mean, Diego, you saw the pop-up. Though, just getting to the pop-up, like trying to put a pop-up on, bro, like the space that we had, it got booked like 3-4 different times by random people, even though we had it booked. The whole kind of essence of what we were trying to do was not really like working out. The people that I worked with to bring product into life, they were kind of having some issues, and I feel like there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be something to like really push through. So I guess the biggest thing was, how can we push through it and still do it? Because the number one thing is, I want to make sure that I meet the people that created this. Like, you can say that I created it, yeah, but no, I really didn't. I just can't create it alone. It takes people. It takes people around me. It takes the people that like the post. It takes people that comment on the post. It takes the people that reshare the post. And that's really the people that really keep me going and that keep the brand going. So for the most part, it's like, okay, Galen, we know it doesn't seem like you can really put this on right now. We know it doesn't seem like it's working out, but the people, they would really appreciate it if you do. Like, they would really feel something about it. Speaking about Diego, for instance, the first time me and Diego went to New York, it was like we learned so much within 4 days. We were supposed to get up at like 7, but we got up at like 10 to bike to a store. And like, we learned so much on that bike ride. And that was kind of like the thing for me. I didn't really want to not do it, because I thought about what people could learn when they showed up. I thought about what people can experience when they get here. And people were coming up to me, coming up to my family, coming up to my friends, and they were saying, oh my gosh, like, this is the best place I've been in New York Fashion Week. I've learned so much. People would go to the back of the room, talk to my grandma. They're like, your grandma really knows what she's talking about. I'm like, yeah, I know. I learned everything from her. So I couldn't let that moment pass up, even though there was so many trials and kind of errors that we had to push through. Me, Diego, one of my other friends, Heather, we were trying to create something leading up to the pop-up. We tried to create a campaign video We had some errors there. We had to find a deli that would let us record in, like an actual deli. And me and one of my friends, Hunter, who is the filmmaker from New York, we went to the deli. We asked a couple questions. We tried to get things going, and we were like, it's just going to be three of us in the deli. It's going to be me, Hunter, Samara, and we're just trying to bring something to life. We told them like we're in film school, blah blah. We're not in film school. I'm not in film school, but that's some things that you have to do. It's not really about faking it until you make it, but it's more about pushing through to make it happen. And that was the biggest thing that we learned in New York. And to everyone that showed up in New York, I've learned so much. And kind of perseverance is the biggest thing that I've learned there.
I know we've had conversations about originality and kind of like what it means to be a designer.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about that? Because from what I recall, you had said that there are a lot of people that are considered designers, or, you know, people would consider you a designer or something like that, and that there's an aspect of innovation that maybe needs to be there before you consider it like, oh, they're just a designer.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how a lot of people, or it's actually a lot of creative direction or like a culmination of things that then make it seem like, oh, this is designing. But if it's not necessarily something innovative or new, are people designing? And is there anything wrong with it not being or being?
Yeah. I feel that number one, I know you mentioned it, Diego. You mentioned that that I am a designer. I'll never call myself a designer. There's so many things that come to a designer that I just feel that I'm not really putting out. Like, a designer to me is someone that finds a new way to make a shoulder fit better, or finds a new way for you to be flexible with your knee movements, or finds a new way to like seam the shoulder here while making sure that the pit doesn't move, and just giving you a new mobility and purpose within the clothing. And I feel a lot of the times that's really challenging to do. Like, you're creating a whole new, not just a silhouette, you're creating a whole new function. Like, you're creating a whole new car.
Yeah.
And not everyone can create a whole new car. When you create a car, people go to the same countries to get the same engines. They go to the same countries to get the same spark plugs. They go to the same countries to get the same tires, right? But who is really creating that car from the base? Not even looking at a reference car, not looking at anything. They're just going in and they're like, okay, I'm going to create a car. And that is something that's a lot harder to do. And that's what a designer does to me. I would say that's what a designer does. So I won't call myself a designer. I feel to really hold that title, it inquires a lot. I will say for what I do is I try to create an embodiment of myself and others in a physical form, you know, and I try to kind of put what my thoughts are in physical reality. So Diego, I'm not sure if you look at it differently. Like, how would you view a designer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we were even talking about like the cut and sew thing. Like, do you need to know how to cut and sew? Do you even need to know how to sew to be a designer or to own a brand or to do any of these things? And you know, there are people like Bliss Foster on YouTube, who is like he's how do you call it? His views are rooted in like the old money. Like, he feels like, oh, if you want to be good at this, like, you got to learn how to sew. But then there are some other people that are like, oh no, like Ralph Lauren hasn't sewed a day in his life, or like like an example like that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like whatever you do, if you admire it and you enjoy it, that's all that matters, right? If you can call yourself, potentially, theoretically, whatever you want to call yourself, you know, you can have your own thoughts, basically. In terms of the whole designer thing, I feel like there are aspects that may be missed in certain areas. Ralph Lauren does not know how to sew. He wasn't someone that grew up knowing how to sew, but he always had people around him that would put the stuff together for him. Like that would envision, like put his envisions together.
So it's like being, that was what we had gotten to. It was like being more of a mastermind is more important potentially than being the guy that's, you know, actually doing every step themselves.
Yeah. That's
And-
why creative director has the word creative and director, because you're directing people how to do something. It doesn't really mean in turn you know how to physically do it or actually do it. In your head, you may know how to do it. Like Tom Ford doesn't know how to sew, right? But I'm not saying Tom Ford was a bad designer, is a bad designer, because he knew how to put people into the places to bring out the best for his brand and for him. So you can take it how you want to take it, but there's certain levels to it, and there's certain areas to it.
I feel like a lot of people are really good business people or business owners and, you know, brand owners. I feel like if you're a designer, you're probably doing one of two things, or you're doing the both of them at the same time, which is you're either innovating silhouette and making it like you're making something new that people have never seen before, that is sort of like jarring or new, or you're making something sort of like functional. I know we've talked a lot about like military clothing. Like most brands will take Buck Mason or Everlane, for example. Both of those brands, most of their silhouettes are military based. And then they sort of become like the norm core or whatever. But most things in society are military based because they're so ultra functional that then it's like it's like how do you call it? It's embedded into society because it's so useful. So it's kind of the same thing with clothing, where like most of it is actually either like from war or it's from like a sort of like aesthetic aspect. But everything sort of in between is kind of just grabbing from what's already been done and putting your own spin on it, which is what a lot of people talk about.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a tough topic because people don't understand, like, calling something new, right, is different than calling something reiterated. I feel a designer creates new life. They create a new way for you to live. And that's really, really hard to do, like really challenging to do, because you don't even think about how people are already living, right? You don't even think about, okay, if someone's living this way, how can I like tweak it a little bit? No, they don't think about that. They think about, how can I make a whole new physical timeline, a new physical reality for someone to live in? Not actually make a new physical reality, but make something that makes it feel like that. And that's hard to do. But I will say a lot of companies and a lot of people, they master the art of kind of faking it, you know? Like when you wear something from certain brands, you feel a certain way, you feel that kind of dopamine effect, and you're like, oh, I'm in a new life right now. You know, like I am doing something different, or I'm somewhere different because of the brand that I wear, the clothing that I wear. And now does that really, if you're not designing a new silhouette or you're not designing new cuts, does that really make you any different from an actual designer? I mean, it's not for me to say. I don't know. You can take it how you want to take it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think it just depends, Diego. Like it really just depends on what you're looking for. You know, because some people, they don't want to wear a new arm sleeve hole. Like they like their way that the arms move on a raglan cut, or they like the way that the neck feels on a regular crew cut. They may not want a new cut. You get companies that reference like Brute or Buck Mason that reference the military wear. Now, the founder of Buck Mason may be like, yeah, I just like how the military garments fit. You know, I like that a lot. I see people can't really get that anymore. I'm just gonna do that, right? And that
was exactly the logic.
Yeah, and that's what they like.
Yeah.
Now is that bad? No. Is that wrong? No. You get other designers like Issei. Issei, I want to be free in my clothes, right? I want to be in this sort of realm where I'm just mobile and I'm just flowing. Now, what could Issei really reference for that? Because, you know, a while back, the clothing wasn't that malleable. You couldn't really move that much. Like, people don't understand, older pieces of clothing were really stiff. Like, they were really stiff. You couldn't really do as much as you think you could in them, right? So this is that thing, like Issei creating a new life.
All the pleating and all of that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I said this the other day. We were having a conversation at work and saying, like, Buck Mason, for example, they're not a fashion. They have the company has nothing to do with fashion at all. It actually has everything to do with history.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting when you kind of get into the weeds and be able to, like, separate and know what you're looking at.
Yeah. But that's kind of fashion, though. Like, fashion is creating something that you love and believe in, but making it physical. Like Buck Mason, they love history. They love the aesthetics. They love the ideas. Now, how can they make that physical? For instance, like, another example would be the Row. The Row loves the luxury life. They love that aesthetic. They love the fabrications. Okay, how can we make that into a physical garment, you know? And I think that's what fashion can be. You know, like people say all the time, fashion is, well, I don't know if people say this all the time, but I kind of think of this. Fashion is a way for you, for anybody else to stand out and fit in at the same time. And brands are trying to hit that. They're trying to hit that standout, right? But they're also trying to hit that fit in. Like Off-White, for example. The life of Off-White, people love that aesthetic, right? When you wear Off-White, you stand out, right? But when you wear Off-White amongst other people that wear Off-White, then you fit in. So I think that brands are more hitting that rather than creating a new life.
What are your plans for 2026? Are you just playing it as you go? Do you have big things in store? You got any travels in store? What's kind of your thought process for 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, 2026. I just want to appreciate every day. There's so much going on in this world now that you just got to appreciate it, the time that you have, appreciate the people that you have.
For sure.
And then just focus on what you can do. You know, don't even look at what you can't do, because that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Just do what you can do it to your best of ability, and just keep going, honestly. Just keep going. So I feel like 2026 for me is just more about perseverance, more about overcoming challenges, putting myself in difficult spots and situations to the point where I feel like I can't get through it and I can't do it, to actually doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just trying to push the brand to a new level. Number one thing is world building. Something that I don't talk about enough, something I don't think brands talk about enough, is when you're creating a brand like Buck Mason or Tommy Hilfiger or whoever, you're creating like an actual world. Like when Tommy Hilfiger created a brand, he said, yeah, I want Tommy to be on every one of my garments. Every time someone sees Tommy, they're like, without even the Hilfiger, they're like, oh, that's Tommy. That's Tommy. And that's a world that he's created. Buck Mason, you can tell a Buck Mason piece by not even looking at the tag. Buck Mason uses no logos, but people can still tell. So the biggest goal for me is building that world and really trying to encompass that for others and myself.
Yeah, I think it's important for everyone to understand that Galen and I have had conversations about trying to do things the right way and what even does that mean. For example, we've seen that within the fashion game, it kind of feels like if you're not paying for ads or if you're not paying for things to kind of push you to the front of the algorithm, then you might be getting left behind. And so we've had a lot of sort of talks about, does it make sense to get into that type of game, or do we not want to do that, and do we want to go into a different direction? And we've talked about it many times, and there's not necessarily like a conclusion because it's always evolving. But the thing is it's never been about the money, and it never will be. It's always been about the community and how you're making people feel, and how you're creating that world, and you're doing all those things, and then hopefully everything else will flow after that. But it's interesting because that's an internal struggle, because if you can see it from like a business owner's perspective, where you're like, okay, I can do all these things, and I can get a little techie, and I can upgrade my this, and I can upgrade my that, and I can push ads, and I can do that, or I can try and just build it from like a grassroots type of feel, where I'm throwing events, I'm shaking hands, I'm talking to people in person, I'm making people feel a certain way, rather than it being like 2 for $30, kind of thing. So I think that's kind of interesting, and that's kind of, I think, the philosophy for me and you. I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like that's part of the thought process for both of us, is like, how can we do things in life that way, rather than being like, oh, let's spit the ads because everyone's spitting the ads right now.
Well, how do you think that came to be? Like, how do you think that form of like persona from a brand established, this is how it should be done, or this is how it should be, or this is what the consumer expects of us?
I mean, it usually comes down to capitalism, and then potentially laziness, where it's like, oh yeah, we got this formula that's working, we're gonna restock to the moon, and like this is what we're gonna do, and that's fine. That's totally fine, but that's not necessarily what everyone wants to do, and that's probably why sometimes people ask the question, like, man, this guy's work is so good, like, why is he not, like, why are they not popping? And it's like, probably because the way to get poppin' was doing it in a certain way that doesn't necessarily resonate with every artist. So, just wanted people to know that that's kind of like at the forefront of how, at least I think, and I know that sometimes you integrate that in your own thought process. So,
I think it really kind of picked up the pace in people's heads that what I want should get to me now, whether that's from a creator standpoint, whether that's from a business standpoint, whether that's from like someone that creates a company, someone that's trying to build a house, someone that's trying to build a car, that they want it to happen so fast, And Diego, as being a very high nutritious human being, you were someone that puts in the work in the gym always, and that you're not going to see the results in day 1, you're not going to see them in day 30, you're not even going to see them in 2 months half the time, but you continue to do it. And I feel like that art of delayed gratification is what's kind of holding people back, holding brands back, because it does take a lot more time, it takes a lot more work, but it may come out better in the end. And it's hard because you do have to compete with certain moralities of consumers, where Amazon gets you their stuff sometimes in the same day. We have so many drive-throughs now where people expect their food at a very, very fast rate, that if you really think about it, food takes time to prepare. Like they're preparing something, they're preparing you something to put in your body. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of would want that to be the best way, right? But once you start looking at everything else that's going on, you kind of see that, okay, things are like this for one reason or another. Like for me, bro, the biggest thing for me, people work, right? They work, they get a paycheck, they get funds, and then they choose to spend it on my pieces of clothing. I gotta deliver the best product, because I work. I know how it is to work, and I know how it is to save up to buy something. And when you buy something that you saved up for and that you worked for, you really want it to be good. So for me, it's kind of, I need to be able to deliver the best service and the best kind of tangible thing that I can, while also meeting certain areas for the consumer and understanding that it's not going to be there within the next day. I'm not going to create something and then it's going to sell out in 5 minutes every time. But you can, though. You can, if you really put your focus and you really put your drive to it. So I think the biggest thing is understanding delayed gratifications is one of the greatest gifts that people found out. That effect of, I've just done all this work for 6 months for a 3-minute fashion show that wasn't even recorded and that 30 people saw, but I'm happy as heck that I did it, you know? So I think that kind of thing was like lost. Now we're chasing the next thing. We do one thing. Okay, what's next after that? We do another. Okay, what's next after that?
Well, because like we've even seen it like you're holding a day job and you're doing all this stuff on the side. Same here. And I think that sometimes it'll get lost in that sauce where it's like, well, or if I pull little strings this way, I can self-sustain.
Yeah.
I can do all this stuff, but then you're
Yeah.
having to restock. Like, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it gets complicated when you want to do it like when you want to do a grassroots.
because you do want it. You do want it at a manageable time. You know,
Yeah.
like you have goals in your head. Like, okay, I want it at this time. I want it at that time.
Trust me, I want to
You
be
know?
selling
Like,
out.
yeah,
like
yeah.
I want to be like
I
all
want
these
it.
drops. I want them to be gone in seconds. But
Right. And I want to make product. I want to get things to people to feel good about. But in reality, it takes time. And sometimes the good things do take more time than others, you know? So, but it's tough. It's tough. And I don't think that's any brand's fault. I don't think it's any parent's fault. I don't think it's any like school's fault. I just think it's just how things have been for a while and how things have just picked up, and it's just more and more fast paced. So now it's finding your pace, your pace, you know. And I think what reminds me of that is I just heard from one of the founders of arabbitshole, Galen, who said, yeah, the social media, I just can't be on it right now. Picked up a Wii. Like, that's finding your pace, you know? Like, that's finding what you enjoy. Picked up a PS Vita. That, like, that's what you remember and that's what you enjoy. So now it's just finding those things that you enjoy and just bringing that back out. That's what I want my clothing to be about.
For sure. Thank you, Galen. We appreciate that. And just to wrap everything up, Galen
Are we
is
done?
just about. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just wrapping it up. And Galen is a director, a creative, someone who sort of puts all the pieces together to just make something that people enjoy. And he's learning as he goes. And he's familiar with both coasts. He's going to be throwing events. He's going to be showing face. And he's going to be a force in the community. So, Galen, I appreciate you coming out. And arabbitshole will be seeing you soon.
We will. Thanks, Diego. Thanks,
Appreciate you, bro.
Rabbit Hole. And one more thing. Arabbitshole has been doing stuff that people have not seen for a very long time. They're going out there, boots to the ground, every weekend, every free time that they get. And it means a lot. It means a lot to people like me that just like the video and comment. It may not seem like it, but people appreciate it. And I feel like if you really appreciate something for someone else, you're really doing a good job as that person.
Appreciate you, bro.